Pat sends back out Sudowoodo, the opponent not wanting to get farmed down, pivot out into their final Pokemon, which is Skeledirge. Skeledirge looking for the Incinerate farm down. Sudowoodo says no, fires off the Rock Slide forces the final Protect Shield. Sudowoodo on a sliver of HP makes Rock Slide number 2, but is this going to be enough to knock out? Well, you're going to have to watch the video to find out. Welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. Firstly, let's get the important stuff out of the way. Today is the start of the Team Rocket takeover. So it is paramount you remove frustration off your Shadow Pokemon, because we don't get that many opportunities. You get a Rocket event about once every 3 months. Do not miss that opportunity. To celebrate the start of the Team Rocket takeover today, we are going to be showcasing an incredible Shadow Flex, a perfect 100% IV, 15, 15, 15, level 50 Shadow Sudowoodo in the Open Ultra League. Of course, this Pokemon did get buffed this season, gaining access to Trailblaze. Hide your Swampert because we are hunting you. Today's battles were submitted to the channel, one of my favourite members of the community, patmanscoop. He's already legend, he's looking to have fun. So we're not only running one Shadow, we're running two. We're taking a look at double debuff, Shadow Drifblim, and we've got a Galrain Moltres in an incredibly cool flex team. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we lead Sudowoodo into Snorlax. The counter's hitting for super effective. However, Snorlax has that fighting type coverage, so patmanscoop makes a savage catch, catching the superpower onto his Drifblim, where it is triple resisted. The opponent answer Drifblim safe switch with Clefable, and Clefable instantly gets that debuff treatment. Drifblim, even as a Shadow, has respectable bulk in the Ultra League. The opponent full send the Moonblast, but that just doesn't get the job done. Pat farms up, fires off Icy Wind number 2, and this is now going to make an impossible Fairy Wind farm down for the opponent. The opponent now going to be forced to dump a further charge move. Pat can easily let Drifblim go down and send out Sudowoodo. Look for the resisted counter farm down. Do we get it? Unfortunately, we don't. The opponent make one further charge move. Meteor Mash would hit our rock type in for super effective, so patmanscoop invest that Protect Shield back out. Comes Snorlax, we fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide forces the first Protect Shield, and this time we're going for the Trailblaze to vamp up our own attack. The counter is now going to tear through Snorlax, despite us not being a fighting type. We do get Shadow bonus, and these counters are no joke. Snorlax again is not baiting. They full send the super patmanscoop, invest his final Protect Shield. Back out comes Clefable, that gets farmed down, and whatever is in the back, the opponent says, not for me, and concede the match. Moving on to the next battle. This time we see another Clefable in the lead. This one running Charm. I'll be honest, I think Fairy Wind is objectively better. Firstly, because fuck Charm, and secondly because Fairy Wind is a Mudshot clone and it generates a lot of energy. Patmanscoop forces a Protect Shield with the Rock Slide. We then pivot into Drifblim, fire off the Icy Wind, and the opponent make a pretty nice catch, catching onto Cresselia. However, if we was actually running Shadow Ball, I'm not entirely sure this is the play you're looking for. However, Pat has no Shadow Ball, so he's going to continue to force debuffs. Again, this opponent looks like they're going for the fast move beatdown strategy, as this Cresselia is actually running Confusion and not Psycho Cut. Again, not the play in my humble opinion, but what do I know? The opponent looking for the Confusion farm down. Drifblim looks like it would have made another charge move, so the opponent throwing the Grass Knot evidently was a huge misplay. Cresselia now incredibly low. Sudowoodo comes in, looks for the resisted counter farm down, and we get it. I imagine Clefable will return, and if the opponent shields, we could be in somewhat of trouble, as Galarian Moltres definitely does not fancy tanking any charms. Back out comes Clefable, we fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze forces the final Protect Shield. Can we make the Rock Slide? Who was worried? Sudowoodo makes the boosted Rock Slide. It's going to be high Clefable by Clefable. We see Patmanscoop spamming the switch, not wanting the opponent's final Pokemon to get a running start of energy. The opponent's final Pokemon is actually an XL Kanto Ninetales, a very cool pick. I really want to make the Shadow, but I spent all my XL candy on the Alolan version. Galarian Moltres with a 2-0 shield advantage. This is going to be game, set and match. The opponent playing out the inevitable. And it looks like Pat's going to go for the disrespectful 2 shield flex. We tank the Weather Ball like an absolute champ, reach the Brave Bird, and that's going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see Sudowoodo into Cresselia. Absolutely dreadful. This opponent running Psycho Cut, which is definitely the recommended moveset. The opponent also has Grass Knot. Sudowoodo is a rock type. Rock is an absolutely awful defensive type in. Probably one of the worst, along with Ice. However, pretty good offensively. We tank the Grass Knot, throw the Trailblaze, vamping up our attack. Patmanscoop then makes yet another catch. Stay in school, kids. Learn to count. Takes 6 Psycho Cuts to the first 2 Grass Knots and 5 to the one after that. Patmanscoop goes straight for the Icy Wind on the CMP side. This will be lowering the attack of Cresselia, meaning the Moonblast that is about to come through is going to do even less damage. Moonblast does land. Cresselia hits like a wet noodle, so that certainly does not get the job done. Drifblim again. This time we don't play to CMP. We look to overfarm. Patmanscoop shields the opponent bait with a Grass Knot. Can we get the Hex farm down? No, we can't. However, this is only another Grass Knot. Drifblim already in the red, but Grass Knot with a debuff not going to knock out. The opponent sends out Swampert, and Swampert also about to get the debuff treatment. We throw the first Icy Wind, forcing a Protect Shield. Pat then throws one Hex and the Icy Wind for optimal fast move time. In the second Icy Wind does land. Swampert now with a 2-stage lowered attack. The opponent not going to be able to mudshot farm down Drifblim. Throws the third Icy Wind. Drifblim being a real pest. We then pivot into Moltres, drawing out Giratina. This certainly isn't where Giratina wants to be. However, the opponent pretty much forced to switch out of Swampert as a 3-stage lowered attack. We tank the Dragon Claw. The opponent going to be spamming out Dragon Claw after Dragon Claw. They're not building up to Ancient Power, so imagine their second charge with his Shadow Sneak. We farm up, full send the Payback. Payback rocks Giratina deep into the red. Giratina makes one further charge move. This won't knock out. Can Moltres then farm down in 4 wing attacks? It's going to be close. Moltres gets the farm down. We leave with residual energy, but Swampert returns, wins the charge move priority event. We allow Moltres to go down. Pat might be able to counter farm down. Swampert has a lot of energy. We look to make a catch. The catch is unsuccessful. Is that going to cost us the game? Is Swampert at the back-to-back charge moves? We shield up the first Hydro Cannon. Swampert far too spammy. And essentially this is why I call it the GOAT. Pat loses an incredibly close game. GG's to both trainers. In the next battle, we lead Sudowoodo into Charizard. A very good lead. Despite Rock being dreadful defensively, we actually do resist both flying and fire. So the opponent can YOLO the Blast Burn, and it would not do all that much. The opponent go for the Dragon Claw, switch out into Trevenant. Pat farms up a boatload of energy and switches out into Galarian Moltres. That is the absolute wall to this pesky tree. As Dark resist Ghost and Flying resist Grass, so absolutely everything is resisted. We tank the Shadow Wall, farm up, full send the Payback, high tree, bye tree, get fucking wrecked. Charizard returns to the battlefield. The opponent still needs to full send the Blast Burn to secure the knockout. Patmanscoop calls the Dragon Claw. That is going to enable us to make one further charge move. There's now massive shield pressure on the opponent. Payback forces the first Protect Shield. Charizard now looks for the full wing attack farm down, and they get it. Patmanscoop exit with a whole boatload of energy. We look to force the final shield with the Rock Slide. The opponent make a very nice play, catching onto Cresselia. Patmanscoop farming up. I think we're going to go for the Grass Knot catch, as Pat has been to school and his counting is immaculate. However, the opponent shows great discipline, hold their energy. The opponent still go for the Grass Knot bait, and Pat calls it. Let's go. Pat now throws one further Hex, not only for good fast move time, but also to fake the Shadow Wall, which does take 5 hexes. We don't have it, but you always got to fake it till you make it. This time the opponent does full send the Moonblast, but it's going to be too little too late. Drifloon makes one further Icy Wind, securing the knockout. Back out comes Charizard. The opponent going to be unable to wing attack farm down. They're forced to throw Pat. No, and he doesn't need to shield Drifblim, as Sudowoodo has this game won. Pat goes for the BM Trailblaze, which is more expensive. However, we've got 2 shields. This game is essentially unlosable. The opponent does win. Charge move priority. We shield up the Dragon Claw, fire off the Rock Slide, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Sudowoodo finding some nice play in the Open Ultra League. It's ranked like 250th, but it looks pretty decent. In the next battle, Sudowoodo into Galarian Weezing. If they've got play rough, this is probably pretty bad. However, I think most run Brutal Swing and Overheat. The opponent farm up to a potential play rough. They full send the Overheat, which is resisted, but still did half our HP. Pat returns fire with the Rock Slide, force a Protect Shield. The opponent then safe switch into Virizion, and we answer with Galarian Moltres. I think if I was in this battle, I personally went Drifblim. Moltres does have a decent matchup here. However, as we share the same type in as Mandibuzz, we're actually neutral to fighting, whereas Drifblim would be triple resisting. I guess Pat's thought process here is we want to keep this away from the Fairy. We fire off the Brave Bird, which secures the knockout and lowers our own defense, meaning the return of Weezing is going to get even less farm. The opponent actually has other ideas. Send out Jellicent, looking for the resisted Hex farm down, but Moltres still not done. Fires off the Payback. The opponent doesn't shield. Are you serious? If we're going to run Moltres, why the hell would we not have Payback in a league where Cresselia and Giratina are top dogs? Pat sends out Sudowoodo, instantly clicks no shield, just looking to force some energy off this jellyfish. We send out Drifloon. This is enough for a Shadow Ball. Pat does correctly shield up the Shadow Ball. We then get the Hex farm down. When Weezing does return, of course it's time for that debuff treatment. This is where debuffing moves come in clutch. The opponent only has Weezing remaining that are going to be unable to reset this debuff. To make matters worse, we've got residual energy and a protection. We can shield up the first move. Apply debuff number 2, and to be honest, Mr. Opponent, please top left. Drifloon is currently spawning in the wild, and Drifloon does require a lot of XLs, especially as a shadow, so now's a great time to go farm them. The opponent playing out the inevitable. Pat makes one further Icy Wind, and that is going to seal the opponent's fate. GG's, and thanks for playing. Patmanscoop did send us 2 sets of battles today. These are unedited, just as they come, and we go 4-1 in set number 1. Heading into the next set. Sudowoodo into Dragonite, probably pretty good if the opponent had no Protect Shields. However, in the 2 shield, the Dragon Ref's going to tear us apart. We're getting some frame drops as well. Have a Pat undeterred, pivots out into Drifblim, drawing out Jellison. How big is the opponent's cojones? We throw the Icy Wind, which isn't really a bait, as we don't have Shadow Ball. We do force a Protect Shield. Pat then farms up, wins the CMP tie, firing off Icy Wind number 2, and it looks like the opponent is not counting. That wasn't enough for a Shadow Ball, so a very poor shield. The opponent's questionable decision making continues as the opponent throws a Surf. 2-stage debuff, that certainly was not going to be enough to knock out. The opponent now forced to dump one further Surf, which does secure the knockout, and in comes Moltres, looking to farm up and get ahead in energy. This 2-stage debuff Surf is just going to tickle. As the opponent has burnt both protections, I think they're forced to stay in and just sack Jellison, as they can't afford to pivot back out, as they have no protections. We fire off the payback, securing the knockout. Back out comes Dragonite. The opponent actually throw out very good timing here just before we reach the Brave Bird. Have a Pat with 2 protections, 2 hard behind, shields up the Dragon Claw, returns fire with the Brave Bird. High Dragonite, bye Dragonite. The opponent's final Pokemon, Shadow Swampert. Oh baby, it's Trailblaze time. We pivot out into Sudowoodo, double super effective damage and buff. Sudowoodo secures the dub. GG's, and thanks for playing. Despite me always claiming that Shadow Swampert is the GOAT, that was very, very satisfying. Sudowoodo into Clefable. This Clefable once again on Fairy Wind. I think Fairy Wind Clefable without a doubt is one of the best Pokemon in this current meta. We shield up the Meteor Mash, would hit for super effective damage. Pat farming up. We're going for this Trailblaze, looking to vamp up our own attack Trailblaze. Force the Protect Shield. We then look to catch the Meteor Mash onto Drifblim. We're unsuccessful, so we're now going to have to eat the Moonblast. Clefable hits pretty hard despite being very bulky. That's why I think it's such a top tier pick. We return fire with the Icy Wind, applying the debuff treatment. Clefable withstands the damage. The opponent then pivot out into Politoed. Politoed, essentially a poor man's Swampert. Sorry Jeff if you're watching, you know that's how I feel. The opponent is very spammy though. They only have to throw 4 mud shots to the Weather Ball, and Weather Ball does secure the knockout. Back out comes Sudowoodo. We fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze forces the final Protect Shield. You can see Pat was desperately trying to catch the Weather Ball back onto Moltres. Although our Switch Timer wasn't up, Switch Timer finally pops up, and we do actually catch Weather Ball number 2. The Weather Ball doesn't do too much to Moltres. However, if this is a Legacy Ice Beam Politoed, we could be in trouble. Looks like the opponent's just going 1, 2, 3, 4 Weather Ball. It's like the old Poison Fang days. Spam the move. As soon as you get it back out, comes Clefable. The opponent going for that wham bam combo play. We shield up the Meteor Mash. Can Moltres get the farm down? Pat doesn't want to risk it. We fire off the payback, guaranteeing the knockout despite the resisted damage. Pat has no protections, 2 high behind. We're running out of HP on both Pokemon. We farm up, fire off the Brave Bird on the CMP tie. Brave Bird does secure the knockout. What the heck can we beat in the back? Cresselia, the answer is probably not that. The opponent goes straight for the Grass Knot. Grass Knot is resisted. Does it knock out? No, it does knock out. To be honest, if we landed the payback, perhaps this would have been a lot closer. We fire off the Trailblaze, which absolutely tickles, and then we concede the match. GG's to that opponent. Very nice lead. Sudowoodo into Heliolisk. Heliolisk taking super effective from the counter damage. The opponent getting torn apart. Why aren't you switching trainer? The opponent looking for their own debuff treatment. They fire off the Breaking Swipe. That just tickles. The opponent then send out Poliwrath. We've got the Trailblaze locked and loaded. Holy crap, that was an absolute big disappointment moment. That did absolutely nothing. So we then send out Moltres. The opponent fires off the Ice Punch, which does hit for super effective. Patmanscoop farming up, throwing the payback. Payback is resisted, but the wing attack should hopefully put it in payback range, question mark. Payback does secure the knockout back out. Comes Heliolisk, and Pat fires off one more payback. Is the opponent willing to burn a Protect Shield? Yes, they are. Pat sends back out Sudowoodo. The opponent banks the Breaking Swipe. Send out Skeledirge. Skeledirge looking for the Incinerate farm down. Sudowoodo running out of HP. We fire off the first rock slide, forcing the final protect shield. Do we make another? Yes, we do. We make rock slide number 2, but is this going to be enough to knock out? No, it's not. The opponent survive on a sliver of HP. We send out 2 shield Drifblim. We just got a shield whatever. The opponent likely to go for the double bait. However, we have 2 shields. You may as well use them. The opponent finally YOLO the Shadow Ball as that is their win con. We get the Hex farm down. Back out comes Heliolisk. This needs to be a Thunderbolt. Or the opponent's just going to lose. The opponent does throw the Thunderbolt. Holy shit, but we withstand the damage, reach the Icy Wind and secure an incredibly close game. GG's and thanks for playing. Man, that Thunderbolt had me sleeping. I thought the opponent was 1 Moltres short. Evidently, when we're at 2 times speed, I don't count all that well. In the next battle, looks like we're having a spice off. A shiny Rayquaza versus a Hondo Shadow Sudowoodo. Where else are you going to see this concept? We tank the break-in swipe, throw the rock slide, forcing the protection, then see the pivot into Drifblim. Look at the Dragon Tail damage. Holy smokes. Pat manages to catch the opponent in a CMP tie. We showed up the break-in swipe. This is double super effective. Despite Rayquaza lowering our own attack, that is definitely going to knock out the opponent. Choose to burn their final protect shield. The opponent throw 1 more break-in swipe. Drifblim should survive. As it's pretty bulky, we do survive and the opponent make a very nice catch, catching the Icy Wind onto a Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck now going to get a very nice resisted Poison Jab farm down. Our Sudowoodo is incredibly low, so we opt to send out Moltres. The opponent doesn't build up to the Sludge, this is only an Acid Spray. If you're going to run a Alolan Muck, I definitely think Sludge Wave is the way to go. I love running Muck, especially the Shadow, and I love YOLO in the Sludge. We fire off the Brave Bird vanquishes Muck back to their Pokeball. If Rayquaza does return, the Dragon Tails will absolutely tear us apart. The opponent sends out a Purified Swampert. We look to catch the charge move. The catch isn't the cleanest, but the opponent does opt to throw Hydro Cannon, secures the knockout, back out, comes Moltres. Where do we burn this final protect shield? Pat shields up the Hydro Cannon. Pat then over farms, fires off the Payback. Payback won't quite be lethal, but hopefully puts it into wing attack farm down range. The opponent actually banks the Hydro Cannon, sends back out Rayquaza. We opt to get rid of it as soon as possible. The question is going to be, can Moltres survive a Hydro Cannon from this range? Moment of truth time. Come on, Moltres, please be thick. Hydro Cannon isn't lethal, and Pat takes the dub. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the final battle of the video, Sudowoodo into Swampert, a matchup we definitely prefer in the Zero Shield. Pat farming up, looking to catch Hydro Cannon onto Drifblim. We're unsuccessful, and my god, this is not the save switch we're looking for. We fire off the Mystical Fire, which does hit for neutral, but Wall Rain very much in the driver's seat. This is one situation where the debuff isn't going to help us, as the opponent is going to land the Icicle Sphere and then get a very nice Powder Snow farm down. Drifblim fires off the second Mystical Fire. Wall Rain withstands the damage, commits to the full Powder Snow farm down. We send back out Sudowoodo. The opponent going to throw a charge move. Is this the Earthquake? Yes, it is. Earthquake is super effective, but after a 2-stage lowered attack, we withstand the damage. Back out comes Swampert. We look to throw the Rock Slide bait, however, we lose CMP. We shield up the Hydro Cannon. Return fire with the Rock Slide. I imagine the opponent's definitely going to shield, fearful of the Trailblaze, which they do. Again, we're farming up, looking to make a catch, and again, the opponent hold their energy. Very nice discipline from the opponent. We saw in the last battle, regular Swampert can't 2-shot Moltres. However, the opponent already at the second. Where do we invest that final protect shield? Pat making a huge gamble, calling the opponent hasn't got something with fast move pressure in the back. This team is often with either Charizard or Trevenant. The opponent actually switched out, catching the Payback on Trevenant. Holy crap, Trevenant's going to be straight in and straight out. Does that give us a win con? Back out comes Swampert. This Brave Bird will be forced in the final protection. I think we've got the Rock Slide banked, which we do. We go for that wham bam combo play, serving up the Big Mac and the fries. Rock Slide actually isn't lethal. The opponent forced to dump energy as 1 counter will take him out. Hydro Cannon secures the knockout, and 1 wing attack is enough to take that game. What a crazy end game there. Huge shout out to patmanscoop. My god, is that some flex, a 100%. 15, 15, 15, perfect. Level 50 Shadow Sudowoodo in the Open Ultra League. Come on everyone, get hyped. Today is a Team Rocket takeover. It's like Christmas for me. I cannot wait. The new Rocket rotation looks incredible. And also the leaders are going to have Shiny Sableye and Shiny Dratini. Even Shiny Shadow Vic. Come on, get grinding. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on the channel, a link to our battle submission form is down below. Of course, with a new Team Rocket takeover, people who send me battles with the new Shadow Pokemon will get priority. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.